Getting pulled over ranks pretty low on the list of enjoyable activities, and going to jail ranks even lower. But if you find yourself drawing the attention of the police, even if you know you're breaking the law, the last thing you should do is run. For one thing, you're endangering your life and the lives of everyone around you. For another, you're pretty likely to end up in a video like this one, with your foolhardy attempt to escape justice preserved for the whole world to see and laugh at. Just after 6 o'clock on an April morning in Long Beach, California, police responded to a call of a woman screaming at an intersection, which is not how police generally like to start their mornings. It would only get more bizarre and potentially dangerous after they responded, as the woman, driving one of those boxy Toyota Scions, attempted to ram a police cruiser 3 times before taking off and leading them on a long and strange chase. The woman headed for a freeway, eventually ending up on the 241 toll road, where she seemed to encounter an error in her programming. She can be seen on this video swerving onto a grassy area off the toll road before proceeding in the wrong direction, narrowly avoiding the pursuing police cruisers. She gets going the right way again, but then attempts to cross over to a different highway, driving in circles as the cops catch up to her. Somehow this ploy works, and she manages to shake pursuing officers again, but not for long. They catch up, nudging the rear end of her car to force a spin out and causing the bumper to fall off, but still she keeps going. Her bizarre journey ends as she exits the highway, gets T-boned by a cop, and is then boxed in by no less than 5 police cars. The unidentified woman was taken into custody, ranting to herself and onlookers. Amazingly, nobody was injured during her ill-advised morning drive. During the 2013 holiday season, an unsuspecting Kansas City FedEx delivery man got the surprise of his life during a pit stop at a gas station. His truck, along with its precious cargo of holiday gifts, had simply disappeared. It would take police a few hours to catch up with the stolen vehicle, and when they did, it only got weirder. Rather than the wild chase they were expecting, the driver, a 19-year-old man named Caleb Ownby, behaved as any FedEx driver would, obeying the speed limit and even using his turn signals. That is, until one officer attempts to approach the truck with gun drawn while it stopped in traffic, at which point Mr. Ownby takes off as if he forgot his stove was on. His flight didn't last long, as police had placed stop sticks, devices used to flatten the tires of fleeing vehicles, further up the road. Ownby tried to stay on the move with flattened tires, but sparks from the truck's rim caused the vehicle to catch fire, at which time he finally called it a day. The man's family said that his actions were extremely uncharacteristic, but that a fight with his girlfriend had caused his mental state to snowball out of control. Of course, during the several hours before police located him, he took the time to deliver several stolen packages from the back of the truck to relatives' houses in the area. A traffic stop in Louisiana earlier this year suddenly became potentially deadly. The driver of a pickup truck, after being pulled over for speeding, got out to approach officers. Meanwhile, 18-year-old Kevonte Austin, a passenger in the vehicle who was wanted for escaping jail, slipped behind the wheel and blasted off. Officers handcuffed the other person and quickly gave chase, concerned about letting Austin reach the main intersection of the small town while reaching speeds of up to 115 miles per hour. Officers set up a roadblock, causing Austin to make the questionable decision to try going off-road, and that's when the young man literally took flight. As seen in video shot by a passerby, the stolen truck went flying in a majestic arc straight out of the Dukes of Hazzard TV series, landing directly on top of another car. Amazingly, this car was occupied and its driver was not hurt at all. Austin was arrested and faces multiple charges, including auto theft. As it turns out, the amazing flying truck was stolen. A pair of Cincinnati police officers were chatting in their parked vehicle in the wee hours of a Tuesday morning in late 2016, when an SUV coming out of nowhere almost sideswiped their car at a high rate of speed. They pursued the vehicle, which immediately reduced its high rate of speed, but officers had no way of knowing that the car's driver was, well, just incredibly high. 36-year-old Ryan Brown was traveling with a great deal of marijuana and paraphernalia in his vehicle, and was apparently just lucid enough to know that the police would frown on this. As seen in this video, he leads officers into a residential area, going too fast for his own good. Here, he smashes into a parked car, sustaining major front-end damage. He continues on for a short time before veering into a telephone pole, at which point the vehicle bursts into flames. Officers described the SUV as smoking heavily as they dragged Ryan, who presumably knows a thing or two about smoking heavily, from the wreckage. He made a full recovery just in time to have the book thrown at him, which is at least better than a telephone pole. Police do everything they can to avoid high-speed chases for an obvious reason. Fleeing drivers are likely to hurt or kill civilians with their reckless driving. In the case of Artre Alexander, who attracted the attention of Dallas police by carjacking a Dodge Challenger, it was this very disregard for bystanders that brought his flight from the law to an awesome and hilarious end. Officers quickly spotted the vehicle, which led them on an 8-mile chase at high speeds down the freeway. Arriving at an intersection, Mr. Alexander, as seen in this clip, attempts unsuccessfully to squeeze between two vehicles, smashing into the back of a minivan and pushing it into the intersection. Then, amazingly, the minivan's occupants, driver Jessica Leisman and her boyfriend Charles Cook, get out of their vehicle and approach the carjacker, dragging him from the Challenger and eventually wrestling him to the ground just as the cops show up to take over. While this was not the safest course of action, a gun was recovered from the stolen car. It's safe to say that this citizen's arrest was probably the last thing Mr. Alexander expected. When Los Angeles police gave pursuit to an armed kidnapping suspect in a stolen car in March 2015, officers might have been preparing for a messy ending. However, it got much messier than anyone could have expected, due to the suspect abruptly deciding he had had enough of the high-speed chase. Viewers watched on live television as police pursued the unidentified man into a residential area, where he suddenly stopped, exited the car, and confidently began exchanging gunfire with the cops like a gunslinging desperado in an old Western movie. No officers were hit, but the suspect was struck in the side, at which point he stopped shooting, lurched over to the front porch of a nearby residence, and had a seat. The still armed and profusely bleeding suspect held police off for about an hour before finally surrendering, apparently deciding that going to jail was a slightly better option than bleeding to death in front of a stranger's house on live TV. 20-year-old Herschel Reynolds was a former Marine who had been specially trained as a motor vehicle operator, which makes his very public crime and arrest all the more bizarre. Reynolds and a friend were suspected of a recent burglary by LA police. They had nothing to do with this crime, but Reynolds believed he was wanted for a prior ticket. So when cops attempted to pull him over, he opened up his convertible Mustang and led them on a wild ride. It had been raining heavily and the streets were slick, but Reynolds and his friend weren't concerned. As a disbelieving cameraman shot footage from a local news helicopter, they stopped to do a few donuts on an overpass before speeding off through the streets. Reynolds' passenger can often be seen standing up and hollering at passers-by even earlier in their journey, which was broadcast live for over an hour. But things got even stranger the longer the chase went on. He shouts at puzzled motorists as Reynolds weaves in and out of traffic on the highway, and the pair finally simply pull over, shaking hands and taking selfies with citizens while waiting for police to arrive and take them into custody. After being released on bail the next day, Reynolds was asked what exactly he was thinking. He replied, "I don't know. I was asking myself that question while I was sitting in jail." In 2016, an unidentified man led police on a short chase through Hollywood after being spotted driving erratically in his brand new Range Rover. While the chase itself was unremarkable, the end of it was the exact opposite. After realizing that he was heading into an area which had been blocked off by police, the man swung a quick left, straight into a light pole. As captured on this video, he inexplicably tries to keep driving for a short distance while dragging the pole with the front end of his vehicle until the front end dramatically bursts into flames, at which point he decides that perhaps he should stop. As police look on, the driver leaps from the flaming truck, sprints into the street, and promptly collapses. He's amazingly unhurt, and he's cuffed and led away as the cops try to keep dog-walking pedestrians from getting too close to the burning car. Eventually, fire crews show up to extinguish the roaring flames. Just another day in Hollywood. In 2002, unemployed truck driver Bernice Wilson gave Dallas police the most tense 90 minutes of their lives when he decided to take a fully loaded lumber truck for a joyride. The truck's driver managed to disable its air brakes as he was pulling away, causing the manual brakes to lock down, but this would only add to the potential for catastrophe. After driving around in circles for a while and leading police onto the highway, with some onlookers cheering him on and even trying to give him high fives, the cops managed to shoot out a couple of the vehicle's tires, but then its manual brakes inevitably overheated, causing the back half of the payload to catch fire. In this video, chunks of flaming debris can be seen flying from the back of the truck, and at one point one of its tires explodes and comes flying off, careening across a parking lot. The truck briefly gets hung up on the highway median, allowing one brave cop to get off a couple of shots at the cab. Yet Wilson still kept rolling, although not for long. He eventually gives up and gets taken down by an entire SWAT team, and he wasn't treated any more kindly by the judge. Due to prior felony convictions and the extreme danger his latest stunt had posed to the public, he was sentenced to 99 years in prison. In April 2015, a Boise, Idaho police officer stopped a pickup truck driven by Jose Manuel Sanchez. After pulling over, Sanchez turned his car around and rammed the police cruiser, pinning the officer's leg in the door, and sped off. The injured officer called for backup, and a chase ensued. By the time the officer shooting this dashcam footage arrived, however, it was almost over. Speeding down the highway, the truck swerves wildly off-road. Then Sanchez appears to rethink his decision and attempts to get back on the highway. It doesn't go as planned, and the truck flips multiple times, ejecting Sanchez straight into the air in a huge plume of dust. While not seen on the video, Sanchez unbelievably ran away from this and was taken down by an officer and two civilians in the middle of the freeway. It seems like you'd have to be incredibly lucky to survive this crash, let alone walk away. But his luck didn't help him avoid an 18-year prison sentence.